Are you ready to redefine what it means to thrive at any age? Welcome to Age is Just a Number with BJ and Ruth. In your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, you deserve to live your best life. Say goodbye to preconceived notions and let's shatter those stereotypes together. Get ready to own your vitality because age, well, that's just a number.
Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Ruth.
And we're back talking all things health and fitness. And today, we've been talking about lately some specific things about physical health.
Yes.
Muscles, ligaments, all those things. It's really important, and we thought it'd be good to talk about our mental health because you can be in...
Oh, geez.
Right? Yeah. See, because here's the thing. You can be in smoking good physical shape, but...
This matters
right?
too.
It really matters.
The mental game
right?
is huge.
Our brain and our brain function really matters.
It really does.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
The mindset that you go into anything, whether it's fitness or whether it's anything in life. So,
yeah. And so, we call the channel Age is Just a Number, and that's about our bodies, but that's also about our brains and about aging gracefully in every area.
Yeah.
So for those of you that haven't seen us before, thank you for joining us. Hey, take a minute, subscribe to the channel. We're putting out regular content all the time, and we want to make sure that you don't miss anything. And when we talk about things like today, which are really important about brain health, you want to make sure that you catch those things as well. So we want to talk today specifically about how to improve brain health. In today's culture, there is a greater increase of cognitive decline.
Well, yeah, because I think we're in such it's a high-paced, fast-paced, high-stress environment that we constantly just react.
Yeah.
We react to everything coming at us.
Right.
So it's take that time to be more mindful and be in the moment. And I meditate, and that's something that's relatively new in my world, but it's been so fabulous where it just it slows me down and I'm more mindful of everything.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. So we want to talk about what can we do to improve brain health. And number one for me is a gimme, because we talk about it all the time. It's exercise. It's getting some time in at the gym or however you're doing
activity.
it.
For sure.
There's two parts to it. There's the resistance training. We've talked about that extensively. And then there's also the cardiovascular work that needs to be done. And it's interesting that 15 to 20 minutes of cardio work every day is enough to positively affect your brain, to increase blood flow to your brain.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's important, obviously. So that's number one, and that's an easy, super easy one, because we've talked about it a lot. Number two, and Ruth just brought it up, number two is prayer or meditation. And I don't know what perspective you come at this from. I, as a Christian, have a lifestyle of prayer, and I take time to pray, but I take time also for mindfulness to just slow down and stop, kind of like what you're talking about.
And I have a more spiritual following where it's I meditate and I visualize and I manifest and I go into that world. So it's yeah.
So, but let me read this headline. So this came from an article on the INC website, or Inc. website, I guess. But the headline reads: Neuroscience reveals 50-year-olds can have the brains of 25-year-olds if they do this one thing: want to be forever young. So it references, and what's in here is referenced by studies done by neuroscientist Sarah Lazar of Massachusetts General and Harvard Medical School. And so what they did was they tested these people who had a background of a meditative practice, some kind of mindfulness practice, okay? And they found that these people had more gray matter, period, which is important, obviously, but they specifically had more gray matter as it related to their frontal cortex. So that's also the part of our brains that's responsible for decision-making, for memory, and for most people, the frontal cortex shrinks with age. So what they found, though, in this study of 50-year-olds, is that at 50, they had the same gray matter as those that were 25 years old. So
Yay.
something, yeah, right?
That's a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. Because really, it's something as simple as making it in your schedule that you're going to take even 2 minutes to just, even if all you were to do is take 2 minutes and do some breath work. That slows you down and just makes you kind of wind down. If you're, if you have a faith of some kind or faith like I do, I take time to pray, I take time and read my Bible, and I take time to do breath work and mindfulness, things like that as well.
And for me, I first experienced the breath work and whatnot in a yoga class. So there's a lot of yoga classes right now where they really incorporate breathing, meditating, and what have you. And I get a lot of my girlfriends that ask me, because I do it now on a regular basis. I do it daily. And a lot of people will ask me, well, how do I get started? How do I do it? And I'll say, it can be as simple as going on YouTube and pulling up a 10-minute guided one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that silence, when we're so used to everything coming at us, and to still the mind and to quiet the mind, we have monkey brain, and so that's when all the thoughts just come at you.
Squirrel brain, yeah.
So sometimes to start with it guided is really, really, I found really helpful. And then once I got to that point of I could do it guided, and then I would switch it.
Sure. So here's the other thing they did. They did an 8-week, so the 8-week, mindfulness program. So this was a second study that they did. And when they did that, they found the improvement, just from those 8 weeks, improvement in the brain, in the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning, for memory, for emotional regulation. These are all important things at any age, but certainly as we age. I found this interesting also. There was an increase in the parts of the brain that controlled empathy. So being able to actually, call it relating to people or relate in a conversation, that kind of thing. And it was interesting also, as they did this, there was a shrinkage in the amygdala in the brain. And what do you think the amygdala is responsible for? Fear. I was going to say cortisol, like it's that fight or flight, right? Fear, anxiety,
right?
Aggression.
All the negative emotions.
Right. And it also found a reduction in stress levels in that 8 weeks. So really, what does mindfulness do? It forces you to slow down and become aware of the moment. Be present in the moment.
Which makes me think right now I have a current mantra that I follow daily, and it's simple. It simply is, this moment matters.
Right.
I stay in the now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happens is, as we just start with even just some of that breath work, we'll have an increase in alpha brain waves. Okay. And what does that do? Why is that important? Because it's healing for our brains.
Yeah.
And so as we're still, not running around, just taking a moment, as we're still, we'll have an increase in those alpha brain waves. We slow down, our brains will basically regenerate, heal, if you will, however you want to say that. So, so practically, what can you do? I think the first thing is you need to put it somewhere in your schedule. If it's not there, it's not going to happen. We understand that. It's just like going to the gym. You're not going to go, I might go to the gym tomorrow. You probably won't, because there'll be a reason not to.
Right.
But put it in your schedule. And
block it.
And the great thing is, even if it's 2 minutes, start with 2 minutes. And so what if it's not every day? Do something. And, we talk about that all the time. Start somewhere, do something.
Start somewhere, do something, yeah.
And start moving forward. So if it's a couple of minutes every day, that's a great place to start.
BJ and we tend to get up early. We tend to wake up early. For me personally, I wake up an hour earlier than I need to. And so I wake up at 5 a.m. and 5 to 6 a.m. is what I call my golden hour. And it's my time I enjoy a cup of coffee, but I'm journaling, I meditate, I'm aware of gratitude, and so I start my day with all those things in place. And it's just my choice, but it's okay to give yourself that time. Give yourself your time. It's important. And if you can't fit it into your regular day, extend your day. Sure.
And I'm the same. I do it in the morning because that way the day can't get away from me.
Yeah.
Right. And very similar, except that I'm, when I get up, first thing I'm doing is getting my coffee.
Yeah.
But then I take time to pray. I take time to read my Bible. I take time to journal.
Yeah.
And do some breathing stuff and
I have
mindfulness
girlfriends.
work.
Yeah, and I have girlfriends that. Sorry to interrupt, but I have girlfriends that do it at night.
Right.
I fall asleep, so that doesn't work for me.
Right.
So you got to do what works for you.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, number 3 is nutrition. So we've talked about nutrition a lot, and we've always said it this way: when it comes to physical health, you can't outtrain a bad diet.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about nutrition as it applies to our mental health today. So we want to talk about, to start with, 6 things that will kill your brain health. Okay, ready?
Here we go.
Number 1. Yeah. And when we were talking about this, Ruth was like, oh, yeah.
Here we go.
So, because
Now I said it with enthusiasm.
right, because number 1 is sugar,
Yeah.
right?
Which is
So-
like crack cocaine to me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So the bottom line is sugar is hugely inflammatory,
But it tastes good.
and without breaking down all the details of it, one of the things that sugar will do is actually reduce blood flow in your brain.
I know. And that's
So-
why I don't do sugar, but I wish I could, but I don't.
But so that's number 1. Is there an alternative? Sure, there are. And we're going to talk about this a little later on, but there are natural alternatives
Yep.
that are natural.
Yep.
Okay. Number 2 is inflammatory fats. So
Processed stuff.
Yeah, processed baked goods, margarine. My first thought when I think of inflammatory fats are Twinkies. Because that was like my
See, they're good too.
my thing as a kid. I loved Twinkies
And
in my lunch.
I was a Joe Louis.
Joe
girl.
Louis, I remember those too. Yeah. But so margarine, pastries, seed oils, canola oil,
All
soy
the things that are
oil.
manufactured and processed,
Yeah,
which
fried foods.
Yeah.
So all of those things, what they do is they create inflammation in the body, and that includes our heart, includes our brain, and therefore includes brain function because it limits blood flow. It affects our circulation. So it'll affect our circulation, obviously, in our heart, but it'll affect circulation for our brains, which obviously is pretty important. Okay. Number 3, non-organic grain. Because what happens is when they spray Roundup on these grains or whatever pesticide, it doesn't go away.
no, it lingers, and so then it's in the food supply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you and I are going to consume it. So the grains are the big deal. Like you can't really wash the grains, right? You can wash strawberries more and more and more,
Right.
but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Right.
Because strawberries are the number 1 pesticided.
Is that a word?
I just made pesticide a verb is what I
English
did.
is such a difficult language, isn't it?
Well, no, I just created a verb.
You did.
I pesticided. Anyway, so that's number 3. Number 4 is mercury, or get rid of mercury. So think about this. When I was a kid, I had two fillings, I
Tuna.
think.
Yeah.
Well, no, I had 2 fillings, and they were mercury.
Right. Yeah.
Like how bad can you
I know.
get, right?
That's what they did back then.
Right?
Yeah.
So of course I don't anymore. Years
We
later,
all get the composite white ones now, the porcelain
my
ones,
dentist
yeah.
years later said like we need to deal with this.
Right.
This is not good. So okay. So aside from fillings, and that's if you grew up in our era of the 70s.
I had them too. Yeah.
Yeah. Aside from fillings, where do we get mercury?
Tuna.
From fish.
Fish,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, from the big fish.
Yeah.
Right, is where it comes mostly in. So tuna, swordfish, bass.
Which doesn't
mackerel.
mean don't eat it. It just means be mindful of it so
Right.
that you limit it.
Yeah, and there may be better fish options also.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line in all of that. But here's the thing. It's neurotoxic. It's toxic. The mercury is toxic to our brains.
Yeah.
And mercury stays in our systems and our brains have to deal with it. How long do you think?
Oh, I don't know.
20 years.
Okay.
20 years. So mercury will stay in our brains.
I would not have said that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years. So it's worth as they say, an ounce of prevention.
So when you open the can of tuna, think about it. It's going to linger for 20 years.
But that's what they say. You have tuna, maybe have it once a week or
Exactly.
whatever it is, something like that. Yeah. So, but what are some options? There's wild salmon.
Yep.
Okay. There's sardines. I'll personally pass myself, but sardines.
My dog loves them.
No. Herring. Herring's a good one. Crab.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
Crab, so good. Trout is another option. That's really good too. So there are options. Yeah. Okay. What are we on?
5.
5?
Did I do it right?
Yeah, you did. Artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
So,
which is the sucralose, the aspartame, is NutraSweet still?
I think it's still a thing out there.
Yeah.
So those artificial sweeteners, the prolonged use of them increases the risk of dementia and stroke.
Yeah.
Right. So what they found is high regular use of said artificial sweeteners actually has the effect of decreasing blood flow to the brain.
Okay.
And so, and it specifically affects the areas of our brains that are linked with memory and cognitive thinking. That's never good, right? To affect those things.
Good.
So what are the natural alternatives? Well, there's stevia,
right?
monk fruit. I use both of those, so they're good for that. So, okay, artificial sweeteners, not so good. Okay, and number 6, alcohol.
He looks at me. I don't know why.
So,
but alcohol, I have to say that it is the most. It's so common amongst my circle of friends for social functions. It's like everybody drinks, and I typically don't so much. And so I do like Irish whiskey. It's my thing, but. I gave up the wine a long time ago and things like that. But and I've learned a club soda and lime is wonderful to go out with. But so I limit it. So I think that's the principle here.
Well, in the long and the short of it, I just cut right to the chase.
Yeah.
Okay. Alcohol makes your brain shrink.
Makes your body fat too. But
It depends on which alcohol. Some alcohol doesn't, right?
Right.
But it makes your brain shrink.
Yeah.
It makes you have worse sleep. And the science shows that your brain size is smaller by volume. So it's actually smaller. We're not guessing.
We're not guessing.
Right? We're not guessing on any of these.
No.
These are all proven results. So, okay, nutritionally, what can I do? What are some simple things? We just buried you with 6 things.
Yeah, this is what you shouldn't do, which is pretty much all the good stuff. So now
let's talk about what are some things to add nutritionally to your brain diet. So number 1 is adding quality seafood. You might say, wait a minute, you just said to cut the seafood. No, we said
cut the mercury.
The mercury
that would be in the seafood.
In the certain kinds of seafood. Right? So we're talking about quality seafood, like wild salmon and things like that.
Yeah.
The other part that you can do with that is omega-3s. Like I have a tablespoon of omega-3 cod liver oil every day.
Yeah.
So
I do as well.
Yeah. So that's what we want to do is adding that. Okay. What else can you do? Adding blueberries and just berries to our diet. I heard one guy refer to blueberries, and it stuck with me ever since, is he called them brain berries because he said they're so valuable for your brain and so important for the antioxidant content and everything else for your brain. So adding berries, adding blueberries specifically, that'll be a huge help. And the last but not least is adding leafy greens and dark green vegetables.
Popeye, spinach,
right? You could steam it, you could saute it, whatever the case might be, but there's a good way to add it into your diet and make it part of your everyday lifestyle.
Yeah.
So that's it for today. Hey, we went a little bit longer, but we just also want to throw out, as we're preparing for, the summer and the fall, if you have things that you would like us specifically to talk about, please put it in the comments or reach out to us.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, if there's anything you want to see as a future topic or anything you want us to really look into, let us know. Put it in the comments.
Yeah, and Take a sec, subscribe to the channel, and like the video, helps us out, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.